Hey, how's it going? So, Shatter. Frontline Shatter. This map got updated back in Endwalker, and a lot of people have issues with it, including me. Now, you may not agree with this opinion, and that's fine, but I personally would rather play on this map than the old map. However, this map has a slew of design issues that I want to address and maybe offer some improvements, some ideas to improve the map. Now, these ideas might not work out. I'm no professional game designer, but I just want to throw out some ideas to see if we can improve this map. Now, every orange circle is where each team starts out. The way it works is sort of this team. This is this team's big ice. This is this team's big ice, and this is this team's big ice. And what'll happen throughout the map is throughout the whole match there will always be two large ice that'll be active at any given point. So it could be like that, or it could be like that, or it could be like that. You know, just like that. And about halfway through the match, all of the small ices will activate, and it'll cause the team to like split up, go back to their base, and take care of all the small ice. And normally what happens is if there's a team that's leading, the other two teams will try to go into the leading team's base and see if they can attack their small ice. And that's generally how Shatter works. Most of the time. And then, like near the end, normally, whichever ice was shattered first, that will be the first to appear again near the end of the match. And in my experience, most of the time, the deciding factor will be which team shatters their small ice first. And each small ice is worth 50 points. Each large ice is worth 200 points. So anyway, let me talk to you about the first issue that I've seen, and that is if you're new to Shatter, you will see these two large ices, and let's say these two large ices are the first to light up. If you're new, your first instinct is to want to go to this large ice. But the problem with that is there is a cliff here, and in order to attack this large ice, you kind of have to drop down to get within range to hit this large ice. Now, if you're a ranged player, you don't have to, like, you could go onto this ledge. But even if you go onto that ledge, you still have to, like, there's no way to get back up after you drop down to this ledge. So you have to, like, either use your return, which almost nobody, especially if they're new, knows that they can use return to go back to their base, or just drop down fully. And if you drop down, I'm not sure if I said this yet, but if you drop down, you're pretty much going to get killed by this team because they have a huge advantage from this ramp because they have all this space to work with, and if they're like in trouble, they can just run back up the ramp and heal themselves up, and it'll be fine. If you're on this team, you have nowhere to go but out here. You have to, and mostly the enemy team is usually blocking this way anyway, so you're pretty much screwed. If you drop down here, you're pretty much screwed. And that's what I mean by beginner trap. Because most of the team will go up and over here to see if they can get into here, and they're not even trying to get to the big ice. They're just trying to attack the team that's in here, because they know that if they go all the way in here, they're pretty much screwed. And I'll explain why in a second. But so here's where I would suggest my first improvement. Have a ramp that's about this size and put the ramp over here. That's the first thing. And in addition to that, make this ramp a lot wider. So you want to allow this team to get in from a couple of different ways, but this is still this team's ice. You want to have this team has the most area, but give this team some sort of chance. Another thing that ends up happening, I forgot to mention this, is that usually the team will come over here, but this team, since they have their ice active, if nobody is attacking them right here, they will go over here and attack this team. So this team is pretty much screwed if they don't get the first ice. They are at a disadvantage right off the bat. So back to the increasing the size of the ramp. So this team will have more space to work with. This team will have some opportunity to actually, maybe even attack this large ice. So this would sort of even up the odds, in my opinion. Put a small ramp here, widen up this ramp, because this still belongs to this team. Yeah. One thing I forgot to mention was that if there's a team that's leading by a lot, they'll obviously both want to gang up on the same team to try and decrease their points and get an edge over them. But what will end up happening is that their ice will glow, and both teams will want to stop them from getting their ice because that's like the only thing that's keeping them from winning. So both teams will try to gang up on that one team, but what will end up happening is that this is such a narrow area, they will just end up funneling and start fighting each other. And this team will likely peek out and start just attacking random players, and it'll just snowball even more. Like, this is a good thing for the team that's winning, so it's even more of a snowball effect at that point. So that's a way that the two ramp system could work, because it'll encourage this team more to go this way, and the reason they don't go this way in the first place is, like I said before, likely their earlier experience of being a new player and trying to drop down and just getting punished for it. And, a lot of the times, for whatever reason, this team won't go this way because it's just such a long way to go that they won't think it's viable. So what ends up happening is, they will both just meet here and end up fighting each other, and this team will, it'll snowball, it'll have a snowball effect even more for this team. So it creates even more of a problem. Now, my second issue is that this large ice, I like that there's a large ice in the center, but the problem is these little fences here, they're fine, but they introduce some issues. The problem with those fences is that most of the time your team will come in here and they will congregate in this little tiny area between these fences. And pretty much all of your ranged players, which that's pretty much over half of your alliance will be ranged players, they will gather up right here, which is the perfect opportunity for a Dark Knight or something on the other team to come in, use their Salted Earth, and have 3 summoners behind them all limit break and destroy half or more of your alliance. And that sucks. Let me tell you, that sucks. It is very, very demoralizing, and it puts your team at such a huge disadvantage compared to the other team. And these little spaces here make it so easy for a team to do that. And the match will basically just snowball from there. So my solution to that, and you might not think it's a problem at all, but I think it's a problem. My solution to that would be to decrease the size of these fences, make them a lot smaller so that there's more space to breathe. more space to move around. And the problem might still exist, but it won't be as horribly, one-sided. Another solution would be to just delete half of the fences. Because another thing, this fence, it kind of like blocks your view when you're in the middle here, and you won't see if this team decides to go over here and flank your team and come up behind them and catch them by surprise. And like that's a legitimate strategy. I'm not saying that's a flaw, but it is annoying. And getting rid of these fences would make that to mitigate that. So yeah, either decrease the size of these fences or just get rid of half of them so that it's more wide open. And I think one last thing I would do would be to increase the size of these bridges, make them a little bit wider, just to encourage teams to cross the bridge. Because a lot of times, when the small ices are active, the narrowness of these bridges kind of discourages crossing over, because there's like no space to work with, and if there's more of this team over here, they will always push you back, and most of the time you won't be able to get to these ices that quote unquote aren't your ices. But I don't know if that should be the case where this is just always this team's ices and this is always this team's ices. I think to encourage more PvP and more interaction and more strategy, basically, is to increase the bridge size so that you have more space to work with, more space to PvP, and yeah. So I think that's about it. Let me know what you think of these ideas, if they're good, if they're bad. I honestly don't know. Once again, I'm no game designer, but I think that would improve the map by a lot. So yeah, let me know what you think, and have a good one.